Welcome to 3 Lanes number 61. I am Danny Lanes. I'm your host. If you haven't been here before, welcome. While everybody's talking about who deserves to be in the Super Bowl halftime show and who deserves to be living where they live, I'm just here trying to make the community better and think about 9/11s. So this episode is dedicated to the 9/11E. And the 911E is an old iteration of the 911. It doesn't stand for 911 electric, by the way, if that's what you were thinking. But it stands for, it's a German word, Einspritzung. So that means fuel injection. And this 911 specifically came out in 1969. And it was kind of like the middle ground 911 in between the 911T and the 911S. And what made special this specific 911 was obviously the fuel injection advancement that Porsche was proposing, and it was jointly developed by Bosch and Porsche, and it was the mechanical fuel injection MFI system borrowed technology from the racing Carrera 6 of 1966. So again, we see an example of a technology advancement from racing applied to street cars, which to me it's a huge benefit. And this 911E was introduced at a very crucial moment for Porsche because they were trying to respond to the tightened emissions and regulations in the US, and they wanted to keep performance. So the fuel injection system gave the 911E a very, very precise control over the fuel and air mixture and equally distribute this mixture on all the cylinders, and this contributed to emissions compliance while enabling better performance. So the 1969 model year also was the introduction of the extended wheelbase, around 89.4 inches, increased by 2 inches from the previous iteration, a flare wheel well for larger tires, and magnesium engine cases for improved weight distribution. But the production from the 911E was from 1969 to 1973, with only 2,826 units made. This was approximately 1,968 coupes and 858 Targas. Targas are always the least amount of cars they make. I honestly really like Targas. I think that would be my first option if I were able to even think about choosing a Porsche. But this it's considerably more rare than any other iteration of 911. Early production from 1969 to 1970 saw nearly 1,700 coupe bodies supplied by Carmen until Porsche's factory expansion allowed in-house production. The engine evolved during the model life, and the original it was a 2.0, and then gave way to the 2.2 liter from 1970 to 1971, and 2.4 liter from 1972 to 1973. And the power output ranged from 140 to 165 horsepower depending on the year. Some of the technical positioning, the 911E used a strategic middle ground, like we said, between the entry-level 911T, which I haven't spoken about in this podcast, but it might be the next one in the 911 family that I'm trying to cover. It was in between 911T and the high-performance 911S, like I mentioned. But even though it had less horsepower than the 911S, 165 against 190, the 911E had superior acceleration, around 99 miles per hour, That's around 160 kilometers per hour for the people using the conventional units used in everywhere else in the world except the US. Due to the superior low to mid-range torque, because it was more torquey, it was better. It accelerated faster. This characteristic made it the factory's secret weapon, they called it, in rally competition, where they had a broader, more accessible power band and it proved to be a huge advantage for Porsche. The Porsche factory team specially employed the 911E models in rallying events, and the model became known as the secret weapon from Zuvenhausen. Uh, Pardon my German, but this was among amateur competitors who typically purchased the 911S, so the 911E became more popular. A quick 4P analysis, and we've covered a couple of these P's before. For example, the place, we know that Porsche had a huge North America dealership network that they uh, created specifically for, or strategically set to make a US a better market for them, and it became with time the largest market for Porsche. But promotion, we also know that Porsche is or emphasizes a lot in the technology, their innovation, the luxury, and the engineering and racing heritage. So those we have covered, but in this specific section of promotion, we can highlight the fuel injection system that was co-developed with Bosch, because that's what served as a primary marketing differentiator, and he highlighted Porsche's commitment to modernize the automotive technology and industry, and always showing environmental responsibility. Now we know that Porsche has some synthetic fuel, so they don't stop moving forward with technology, even though it might not be needed. I don't want to get into the whole global warming is true or not. It doesn't matter, right? They're trying to make everything more efficient, and that is admirable. Uh, Considering that the company is so big and so luxurious that they don't need to. They could sell cars easily because they're positioned as a luxury item. They don't need to move forward. Eventually, with time, it might bite them in the butt, but they really wouldn't need to until later. But they still do it. They still strive for it. They still show in races and all that stuff, which is really, really admirable. The marketing materials for or position the 911E actually within the broader 911 narrative of continuous evolution and maintain the iconic design language established by Ferdinand Porsche, original from 1959. Again, we know about the motorsport connection with Porsche, like we've mentioned. They position the cars emotionally as everyday supercar concept, and this is central for the 911, I think, even now. So they have different types of advertising, or they had at the time, like print advertising in luxury lifestyle publications, etc. But again, the Porsche brand has reinforced all the time heritage, storytelling, and engineering excellence, positioning ownership as a lifestyle statement, reflecting achievement and technical appreciation rather than just a status symbol, right? So they try to make you believe that you're a race car driver, even though you just drive your 911 to work. But if we go back to the initial two P's that I cover, which is the product, we briefly touched on it, and the 911E, it was distinguished because it was more refined, technology forward, sports car, and it combined performance with luxury points in the car, right? So some of the standard features include the comfort package with ventilated brake discs, aluminum calipers, velour carpeting, leather cover steering wheel, uh, heavy bumper rub strips, chrome rocker panel trim, and gold color script badging on the rear deck. Some of the specs of the car were the engine between 2.0 to 2.4, right? A couple transitions in between there. throughout the different production years, sorry. Power output was 140 to 165 horsepower. Transmission, 5-speed manual or 4-speed Sportmatic. Layout, it's still a rear engine, rear-wheel drive with independent suspension in all the corners. Body styles, the coupe and the Targa. Brakes, ventilated disc with 2-piston fixed calipers, all wheels. Performance, top speed 134 to 137 miles per hour from 1969 to 1970. These are the specs for the car. The model's 1969 specifications include improved aerodynamics with a 0.38 drag coefficient for all those nerds out there. Independent all-around suspension with torsion bars and dual circuit brake systems. But the fuel injection was the highlight, and this system represented a technological leap. And if you compare it with the carbureted competitors, delivering precise throttle response and a broader usable power band, it made this car so much better and different. The price, the second P that I usually cover, but in this case the last P that I'm going to cover, the 911E was strategically priced as the value-oriented alternative to the higher performance 911S while having a premium over the base 911T. So I would think of it just like how car manufacturers have the same model nowadays, right? So in case of the Volkswagen Golf, you have the GTI, you have the okay, let's break it down on the GTI. You have the base GTI, I think is the S, then the SE, and then the Autobahn. So it's technically the same thing here, but in this case you see a leap in performance between models instead of being just a standard model with like a different features within the car, right? So in the case of Volkswagen, they have the same engine, same everything, but in case of Porsche, even the performance increased a little bit. Maybe you could think of it like the Golf and the GTI and I don't know, we don't get the diesel cars anymore, right? Because of Dieselgate, but maybe even put it there because I don't think Porsche has any diesel stuff if it's not an SUV. But without rambling any longer, in 1969, the 911E was positioned at $7,736. It was approximately $700 less than the 911S at $8,370 and $636 more than the 911T. And for that, you do the math. So it was kind of like almost 700 price difference between the three models in between each model, right? So 911T, almost 700 to the 911E, the 911E to the 911S, another $700. So this pricing structure reflected its positioning as a luxury-oriented mid-range model with enhanced features and modern fuel injection technology. Some of the contemporary market data shows that the original 911E vehicles command significant collector value today with average sale prices at $86,000. Let's call it 87 because 86,866. So 87,000, reflecting how rare the car is and how desirable it is. The model's historical pricing has reflected Porsche's premium positioning strategy, targeting affluent consumers from the beginning, seeking both performance and everyday usability. So Porsches are not cheap, right? And they might share some of the parts with Volkswagen, but still, if maintaining a car like that, it has to be pricey. I obviously do not own one. Yes, I would love one day to own one, but cannot do it at the moment. So this was the 911E. So we have covered the 911R, the 912, the 911S, the 911E, and the 911L. And again, the E replaced the L, right? So this 911E is the replacement for the 911L. The 911E, again, like we said, from 1969, and the 911L which only lived for 1 year, right? So the 911L came out in 1968, and 911E came out in 1969. So yeah, that's what happened. The L got axed by the E, as you can tell, and that's it. That's the story of the 911E and 911L. Next time, I'm not saying next week, but we'll cover the 911T. That one's a little more extensive story, so I'll need more time. I'm leaving this one at 15 minutes, man. I am on target. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, anything, do not hesitate in contacting me. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you next time.